Let's start the stream and go live. We'll see if anyone shows up. This is just a general conversation. Stream that. Okay. Still stuck in. Let's see what we got. We'll see if anyone shows up. Anyway, we'll start talking here in just a minute. This is a new show from WPPlugins and it's going to be a weekly show, Saturday evenings, about 8 o'clock, give or take. And it's going to discuss news and information and tidbits and articles I've discovered throughout the week from WordPress. So we'll take it away. We'll give it an official intro.
WordPress. It's the most popular content management and website solution on the internet. And with over 80,000 plugins to choose from, how do you separate the junk from the gems? Join us for a weekly, unrehearsed conversation about the latest and greatest in WordPress plugins. This is WordPress Plugins from A to Z.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be hiding out there on the globe today. Coming to you direct from the brewery overlooking beautiful Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, where right now it's kind of calm, although the last couple days have been very stormy and bleary. And what I've got here for you is just a weekly show that is going to be discussing tidbits of information and news. This week here I have a little special about WPDrama or WordPress drama that I personally got involved in. Didn't mean to, but somehow it occurred. So we'll just start off here with a little bit about everyone knows WordPress. There's always news about WordPress, new articles, new information, bits and pieces of things that have happened and occurred. And I'm going to pull some articles here from the weekly newsletter, WP Plugins. If you're not subscribed to it, go to WPPlugins.com, click on the subscribe to newsletter link in the front page there, enter your name and email address, subscribe to the newsletter. It gets a lot of articles and bits in there that are not covered in our regular weekly podcast. Now, this show here will not be out on the weekly podcast itself or in the podcast feed, because that's reserved for the podcast. This is just a live stream that I am doing to tell folks about what I found during the week and things that have been happening. So let's see. Morning, 5 in the morning in Sweden. Oh, welcome. It's 8 o'clock at night here. Well, that was pretty nice of you. Killed and resurrected your site. Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, 4.9. I haven't left 4.99 on any of my sites yet. I still haven't made the time to do that. So we'll start off with one of the first articles from the WP Plugins newsletter. This is the WordPress 5.02 was released. Now, they've been on a pretty impressive release schedule for the point releases here, considering that we're at 0.2 release already. It's only been 2 weeks since it was released. I mean, it was originally released on December 6th, and then they released a 0.1 release last week sometime, and it wasn't performing very well, so they released a 0.2 release a couple 3 days ago. And this one here promises to have 45 block editor improvements, 17 block editor related bugs. Let's get that tongue working. Maybe we'll just have more beer. 5 in the morning, not time for beer there, but here it is. It's beer time on the west coast of Canada, and we make good beer here. So they've done some internalized issues. They've got a whole list of changes you can go look at. Download 5.2 if you're trying out the Guttenberg and seeing if you can get it working for you. I don't have a lot of answers on that one yet. I know I've been supposed to be doing some work with it, but well, the truth is client work comes first, and sometimes I just need to step back and not do any real work, which is why I'm doing this, because this is fun. Doesn't require any real work on my part. Just show up and do some chatting and talking a bit about what's happening. Okay, and gotta work on that. Now, a non-WordPress article here. This is it. Some of the news and information that my marketing manager puts into the newsletter is kind of interesting. Is Microsoft IE 0-day gets an emergency patch. So if for those that are still dealing with IE in any way, shape, or form, they've patched it up for some reason. And let's see what we got here. Microsoft patched the 0-day vulnerability in its Internet Explorer browser that is actively being exploited by hackers. Well, good for them for finally fixing that up. Excellent. Let's see. I've got a couple other articles to bring up here. And Updraft. Updraft has made some nice improvements. If you use Updraft, I used it in the past. It's a pretty decent plugin for your website, and it makes decent backups. They had a problem with it that didn't work with me on several sites I was doing with, and the reason I left them was when a site got too big, it didn't create decent backups. But it looks like they've improved it over the last couple of years since I've used it. But they're releasing a new development, and what this has done is they're releasing an incremental backup, which is available. Incremental backups are a really nice kind of thing. If you have backups, like I have backups for my computers, and they do incremental backups. It does a complete backup and a mirror, and then it does incremental backups. The incremental backups meaning it only updates and backs up changes since the last time it was backed up. It doesn't do a complete backup. What this means for many people out there is that if you are on shared hosting in places such as GoDaddy, Bluehost, Schism, I don't know, there's dozens of hosts out there that aren't providing you with really good, decent backups on a regular basis, then you might want to change to johnoverall.com hosting, where there's always 7 backups of your site of various states from the course of a month that you can download, complete backups. But enough sidetracking there. What this does is this will back up that incremental backup for you, and then it will go in and download just those components. So it doesn't use up as much server resources when it's doing the backup. It takes less server resources, so it won't impact those small shared hosting accounts that many people have to deal with on a regular basis. So this is why Updraft is really nice in what they've done. Now the feature is not out yet, or it might be, because this article came out on the 19th of December, and they're talking about when did they say it was coming out? And new feature, they're just saying by the end of the week. So they released it on the 19th. 19th was last week, so it was supposed to be out by today. So I don't know if it is or isn't, but may or may not be. If it is, go check it out. If you use Updraft, make sure you update. Now here's an article that we got. This one here, Top 10 Trusted HTML to WordPress Companies for 2018. And this is, somebody did some analysis of different companies out there for doing HTML to WordPress conversion. I know, surprise. Now people are still using HTML. Well, it does happen. I know I converted an HTML website about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's still there, and it takes time to do one. But what they did was they went through and they analyzed some companies. This comes from Techno Beep, and you can't really see the title of who it comes from in the window, screen window, but they recommend Hire WP Geeks, WordSucker, Designs to HTML, CSS Chopper, Market Cloud, HTML Guys, Value Coders, Stellan Infotech, Sparks IT Solutions, and CMS to CMS. Now, I don't know about all the others, and I'm willing to bet that this article here, they don't say it in the article. They say it that all of these are affiliate links. Here's products. See what they say, links. No, it doesn't look like they have links that, doesn't look like they're affiliate links, but if you're going to choose any of these, the one that I would recommend would be number 10, the CMS to CMS. Theirs is a fantastic service for converting from HTML to WordPress. And it does a really nice job of doing it for you. Puts them all in either posts or pages, and you do have to go in and clean things up, but it's better than cut and pasting stuff. Moves it over, and then I just fine tune and tweak it. A lot less time can be saved. I mean, consider it, if you got to do, let's say, one page, takes you 5 minutes to cut and paste. If you use one page with this service, it takes 30 seconds to copy it, and it takes you a couple of minutes to fix it. So you still have to fix it no matter what. If you cut and paste, you still got to fix it. So either way, this could save you some time. Okay. Now, what do we got? Now, for those of you that are sticking with Guttenberg, and I have no recommendation either way, really, because I have, as I've mentioned in many of my podcasts in the last couple of weeks, I have to use both. I have to stay with Guttenberg. Eventually, I got to update my sites to Guttenberg that are going to use it, and then I've got to run a few sites on Classic Press just because of customizations. But what's talking about in this article from WordPress.org is that the design team is looking at exploring a nav block and what they can do to the navigator or your menu bar. They want to switch the name from menu that we've had for decades. Time to give us a new name. Let's improve our customer experience, as I call it, by changing something that doesn't need to be changed. People don't understand what menu means. Really? After how many years of the internet websites, they don't understand menu? Oh no, it's confusing to restaurants. This is actual stuff that I've heard and read. Confusing to restaurants. It's like, seriously? Confusing to restaurants? And I just realized, I'm hoping there's back there, but I hadn't put my headphones on. Pop that. Using my speakers. That can be a problem. Hello, testing 1 2. Yeah, well, I'm still sending out sound, so it's all good. Anyway, confusing, but they're going to be looking at exploring a nav block. In other words, they're going to make the nav menu a block, so you can edit it with blocks along with everything else. I don't know how it's going to work. It sort of sounds like a good idea. But, you know, the nav menu system that we've had for a very long time is pretty simple and straightforward to use for the most part. Even my inexperienced customers find it okay. So that one there is an interesting read in itself. What else have I got lined up here? Just, you know, I'm going to be trying to keep this show to 30 minutes or so, not have it too terribly long, unless I happen to get deep into a real bunch of stuff. And I still want to get to, as I said in the beginning of the show, for those that didn't catch it, I'm dealing with some personal WordPress drama. I've been involved in WordPress now for 10 years. 10 years. I've been involved as long as my oldest son has been around, and for 10 years, and I've seen a lot of WordPress drama come and go. Never really thought I'd get directly involved with it. After all, I'm kind of a small low-key kind of person. I don't have a massive following. I don't have tens of thousands of followers or clients, or not a massive business. It's just a very small, low-key business. I've got myself, 2 employees. We do a decent amount of work, but so I've kind of avoided all the WordPress drama until this last week. So we'll be getting to that in about 3 or 4 minutes. Try to catch a couple more articles here and see what else we got. And what have we got here? Okay, we've got an article here on the intangible benefits, intangible impact of WordPress minimum PHP version bump. And what this one seems to be about is, for years, WordPress has been way behind. They say ever so slightly behind. It's more like way behind. Yeah, to put it kindly. They've been supporting PHP back to 5.2, and they should have not supported it back to anything previous to 5.6. And they're going to make that bump coming up real soon by the end of the year. By the second half of 2019, they're going to bump it to PHP 7, which means that anything previous to PHP 7 won't be supported, which is acceptable because PHP 7 is no longer going to be supported at the end of this year. In other words, in another week and a couple of days, PHP 7 is no longer going to get updates from the PHP project. So you're going to have a minimum PHP 7.1 if you want to get security updates. So this is going to have, of course, they say it's going to have happier developers, and it will, because then developers don't have to support the older stuff. They just want to support the new stuff. A really good article and read. And the Tavern has a lot of good articles. I remember when the Tavern was brand new, and I can't remember the author's name there. The guy who used to own the Tavern, he was really big in the beginning because he started his podcast a few months before I started mine initially, and he was more active than me. I don't know, he had money or something. He went to every WordCamp, traveling across America, interviewing people, and doing a lot of really good. And he managed that for a couple of years, and then he had some personal issues and trials that he had to quit doing it. And then he was having financial issues, and he came back and he tried to sell the WP Tavern and then couldn't get a buyer. And then out of nowhere, an unnamed buyer bought the Tavern and resurrected it. And for a while there was speculation. Oh, it's Matt. Matt did it. And it was neither denied nor confirmed. And it took a month or two, and then it was finally confirmed that Matt bought WP Tavern and turned it into a news thing. Now, the news has changed a little bit on here from what I recall in the beginning. He used to be more hardcore than he is. And he used to be more confrontational, or what I'm looking for, comments. He questioned more. His questions were deeper. Anyway, that changed, and a lot of the stuff on the Tavern is all the happy stuff, the good stuff. Not always the bad. But the one nice thing they've done at the Tavern, I really am impressed with them, is they don't shut down the comments, no matter how bad or good the comments get. And I've seen some pretty nasty comments going to the Tavern, and they leave them, which is kind of impressive to me, that they take that critique and the criticism. That's the word. It was more critical before. But they take it, and they let it go. I've only seen them shut down the comments a couple of times, and that's when they just got completely out of hand. There were hundreds and thousands of comments, and they just went, okay, enough. Time to shut this down. So, at any rate, check out the article at the Tavern. It's well worth a read as I wander on. Merchant accounts versus Stripe and PayPal for e-commerce. This is a article, or looks like a podcast from WP the podcast, and it's a podcast discussing whether to use Stripe or PayPal for e-commerce. And it's probably a really good listen to. I hadn't listened to it. I just discovered this article thanks to my marketing manager. And which one would do better? Now, I have experience with both of them, not personal, but for my clients. For personal, I use PayPal for virtually everything I do. but I've installed Stripe onto a few client sites, and they're really relatively easy to work with, and they pay pretty decently too. So if you got Square, Square works well too. And I believe Square now has some advantages for that. Okay. What are we going to bring up here? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sidetrack this. There's a bit of the news and information, and this being the first of this show, it's going to be a bit rough. It's going to be rough until I finally land on a format that'll work for the show. So initially it's going to be rough. It's not always going to be all that good, but it will get better as we go along. I know that sounds kind of like, well, really? Trust me. Well, up to you. You can trust me if you're not. All right, so what I'm going to talk about now, this is going to be discussing my WordPress drama, although it's not complete yet. But what has happened is that I have had a WordPress.org account for, about 8-9 years. I created it way back. And what occurred back then, well, what happened is over time, I would use the account periodically. In the beginning, I used to go into the forums and answer people's questions and try to help out there, but I found I was not doing a whole lot. So it was getting too tough for me to cut the time or create the time to go do that. So I just stopped going there. But once I started doing the WP plugins A to Z show, I started occasionally putting up the reviews from the show into the WordPress forum. And those reviews would let's see if I can get that up in. Those reviews would often contain a link back to the WP plugin show. And you may have a tough time reading this. This is going to be a post on my WP plugin site when it's done. It's not complete yet, but I'm pretty much on the way. But I wanted to just fill people in on it. And what happened here was I got suspended. I didn't even realize I got suspended. Actually, yeah, suspended. They banned my account. Is basically what occurred. And I didn't know what occurred. I went to log into my account a few days ago, and I was locked out. And I'm like, okay, why? And there's no real explanation except for this minor error message they give you. You have to go search on that error message, and that's when you get the idea, wait, I'm locked out. Then what I read in a couple of spots was people had to create a new account to go post in the forums to ask a question about why their other account was suspended. So initially that's what I started to do, but when I did that, I accidentally tripped across a forum thread that said it wasn't necessary to do that. What you had to do is you had to email the support forum place, and you email them and ask them the question. So that's what I did. And I'm going to read through my email threads from them at this particular point in time. This is after 4 days of dealing with this. It happened back on the 19th, which would have been Thursday last week. And this is what I've had ever since. So I started out when I went and logged in, as I explained, and this is the email I sent off initially. Hello, I have a pretty old account, username Sir Dragon Lord, that was using email address at smartmom.ca. I went to log into the account today, and it has been a couple of months since I last used it, but it shows it has been disabled. No understanding why. And then I mentioned I started to create a new account to post in the forums using this email and my new email, John at WP Pro, and I found a thread that said I should write here. So I was basically being straight up front about what I was doing. You know, I wasn't going anywhere. About 24 hours later or so, which I expect that kind of turnaround, I expect time, I got an email back, and it was this. Hi, you were blocked for spamming. It has been 5 months since you were blocked, and I've blocked your new account as well. and then it gives links to my 2 accounts that I created, not realizing what I'd done. And then it's on, here's why. You spammed the reviews egregiously. And then in parentheses, I use that word a lot lately. And then it said, you kept leaving reviews with links to your real review on your site. You did that 31 times, and you were asked by moderators to stop doing that. You ignored those emails, and all 31 reviews were archived, and your account was banned for spamming. Jan Dembrowski. I'm like, wow, okay, I can accept that. Seemed a little harsh in how it was worded, but, you know, tone is so hard to get in emails. It's really hard to get tone in emails. You don't really know whether they're being snarky or whether they're just being a little gruff or what they're doing, but it's really hard. There's a couple of points in that. Egregiously, I use that word a lot today, kind of like, wow, that's okay. You didn't really tell me that you used that word a lot. You know, you could just said you spam the reviews egregiously, and you didn't have to go, you spam the reviews in lowercase and then egregiously all by itself, separate, period. Because punctuation helps you figure out tone if they're doing the punctuation right. Not from me. My punctuation is, well, not horrendous, but it's kind of rough. All right, so I accept that. A little bit of snark. 1 point. Seemed a bit heavy-handed to, you know, I created a new account, and so they blocked that one as well before I'd even done anything with it. It's like, wait a minute, dude, I didn't even do anything, but okay. You know, so I figured, okay, I accept that. That's a little bit, I did make a mistake, so I'll try to make it better. See what I can do to fix this. So this is the email I sent back to them. Amazing how time flies. I had not realized it had been 5 months since I last logged in. Interestingly, none of those emails asking me to change my practice ever arrived, not even into my spam folder. And it's pretty severe, I think, to just cut off an attempt to fix and make things right. I had not realized linking back to my show was an issue. They were not links to the, quote, real review, because that's what he said. They were the real review. It's not the real review, but to the verbal review. Had I seen any of the emails you say were sent, I would have corrected the issue immediately. And then I made a little side comment here because of all the things and bannings and deplatformings and everything else going on across the web these days. I added in there, seems to be typical of companies these days. If someone makes a mistake, just cut them off, not let them atone for it. Pretty sad, I think, that the world has become this way. I continued on. The reviews were all legit. I've been doing reviews for 7 years now on my podcast, WP Plugins A to Z. And I thought sharing them with a link back to the show would be helpful for the dev. I do not believe it was spamming, as I was linking to where they could hear more about what I said in my review of the plugin. It is sad that all those developers that I reviewed will no longer get the advantage of having my review added to their reviews list. And then I went, how about if I propose a fix here? How about if you unlock my old account, I go into all the previous reviews, I then edit out and remove all the links. Then in the future, I only place the review and mention the WP plugin show and have no links there. Will this fix the problem? I don't know, it seems sort of reasonable to me. I didn't know. And Jan responded back, breaking up my email into points. Not a bad thing. I do that all the time when I need to make it. But snark, I don't know. You judge for yourself on snark on this one. Little drink. All right, here's what he said. Hi. And here's the pieces that he quoted out. Interesting, this is what I said. Interesting, none of those emails asking me to change my practice ever arrived, not even into my spam folder. Jan's response, the same system for mail we are using now is the same system these notifications use. If you did not get it, it's not for lack of the system sending them out. Okay. This place sends out an amazing amount of email, and some less enlightened mail systems think we spam. We don't. Okay, so are you saying my less enlightened email servers, which I run myself, can get your email we're going back and forth with, but I didn't get the emails that were sent out from the forums. Yeah, I know how WordPress works. It's not uncommon for emails to think they're going out and then don't, or get trapped in the servers. So, all right, we'll leave it at that. Next item, I said, and it's pretty severe, I think, to just cut off an attempt to fix and make things right. I had not realized linking back to my show was an issue. They were not links to the real review, but to the verbal review. Had I seen any of the emails you say were sent, I would have corrected the issue immediately. Jan says, that's good to know that you had had you read those emails, you would have corrected your actions. Very nice. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Then he cuts out this part here. Seems to be typical of company. This is me. Seems to be typical of companies today that if someone makes a mistake to just cut them off and not let them atone for it. Pretty sad, I think, that the world has become this way. And Jan's response, that's incorrect. Completely. You were warned. You did not modify your behavior. This has consequences. That you didn't get or read the warnings has nothing to do with the moderators who warned you. The email went out. WordPress.org, despite many people's misunderstandings, isn't a company. Well, okay, technically it's not a company. A lot of people from Automatic work for WordPress.org, so you got company people working there. It's an open source community software project staffed by volunteers such as myself doing things, I'll assume it's things, on their own time. Okay, well, I do understand it. It wasn't very snarky. It was a little bit harsh, but okay, it's all good. Not a problem. Then I said, then this is the next chunky cutout. The reviews were all legit. This is me. The reviews were all legit. I've been doing reviews for 7 years now on my podcast, WP Plugins A to Z. And I thought sharing them with a link back to the show would be helpful for the dev. I do not believe it was spamming, as I was linking to where they could hear more about what I said in the review of the plugin. And then Jan's response is, the reviews have always been limited to feedback, and it is not about quote, go here for more information links. As I am sure you can imagine, some not very nice people have abused the reviews and were informed to stop. If they did not heed that warning, then, as you found out, the account gets banned. Okay, yeah, you're right. A little harsh, but not bad. Note, actual spammers, such as mail enhancement spam, doesn't get a reply and is not archived. It's flagged as spam and dealt with. That's not the case with you. I'm just trying to be complete. Now keep that archived thing in mind. He's mentioned archived a few times, so we'll come back to that. Those accounts get banned for cause, spam. Abuse is abuse, and that's not long tolerated. I think you understand why. Well, I do, if it's abuse. But, abuse is, abuse is abuse. You're right. But linking back to where they can get more information, to me, is not abuse. To me, that's helping the community, giving them more information, sharing knowledge. But this is their platform, their rules. So, all good. Then I said, it is sad that all those developers that I review will no longer get the advantage of having my review added to their reviews list. And he simply says, see the comment of mine about abusive behavior. In other words, hey dummy, just read the line again. You don't get it. Okay. You could have just actually included that line above so you had it all in one thing instead of doing that, but that's okay. And then it's me. How about if I propose a fix? How about if you unlock my old account and I go into the previous reviews, I then edit out and remove all the links. Then in the future, I only place the review and mention the WP plugin show and have no links. Will this fix the problem? And he's like, yes and no. If you agree, then I will unban your account, as we are having this conversation and I'm positive you understand and will not repeat that behavior. It's very nice and polite. Okay. And it's like, I will not restore those reviews. They've been archived or deleted. Okay. There's many, and frankly, there's no point. They've been gone for 5 months now. Okay, so let me understand something. If they're archived, it's a matter of unarchiving to bring them back. And then it's like, there's no point. They've been gone for 5 months, which indicates that they've been deleted. And also you're describing as a lot of work and enough effort was spent archiving those reviews. Well, archiving means it's still available, and it usually doesn't require a lot of work, but okay, maybe it does. I don't know. I've never worked on their forum, so I have no idea. If you like, feel free to leave new reviews, but if you do, refrain from links and even the suggestion of visit my site for more information. The review section is where you provide your feedback. Okay, now that's not even the suggestion of visit my site for more information. Okay. Now the review section is where you provide your feedback, keep it in text, and in that section where it belongs. Let me know if this works for you. You may want to change the email on that old account to the new one you're using now, which is pretty true. I would. Okay, so, you know, he was a bit polite and a bit rude. Okay, so not bad. All right, the last one. This is the second to last email I sent out. And it's, hi, Jan. Yes, I would like to have my certain, and this is me trying to clarify some stuff up because I want to make sure of what I can and cannot do here. I'd like the account back. I'd like to be able to post the reviews there again, but I'd still like to let people know where those reviews originate from. So this is what I sent back. And I was doing some research too. So I decided to read the rules of the forum. Decided to check out the forum rules, see what they had to say. And the forum guidelines. You'll like what happened next, so stay tuned. This gets interesting. Okay, it's like, hi Jan. Yes, I would like to have my Sir Dragon Lord account unbanned and the email associated with it changed to john@wppro.ca. I will keep this account as my personal account. I see in the forum guidelines I am able to create a business account. This was there. I will create a new account for my podcast, WP Plugins A to Z, and use it to post the plugin reviews I've given on my show. Am I able to reference in text form with no links the information about which show their plugin review was produced, or any other pertinent information that will help the developer to find the review on my site themselves without including links to the actual show or my site? An example would be as reviewed by John Overall, episode 850 of the WP Plugins A to Z podcast, or as reviewed in episode 850 of the WP Plugins A to Z podcast show on YouTube, etc. Please clarify if the above statements are made within the review post will be acceptable. I want to ensure that I'm abiding by the guidelines that are in place so that we don't have this issue again. That's interesting. I'll come back to your comment there, Giftones. That's an interesting comment. I'll visit that when I'm done. This is at the end of it. So I sent that off to him, and he sent me back this email. And this email was, no, that's not true. You are reading the forum guidelines incorrectly. If you do create multiple accounts, then you will be permanently banned. That business account is for plugin and theme authors to upload code only for specific support people of those companies with said plugins or themes. That's not you. Okay, wow, that was pretty harsh. And if you add anything like as reviewed by John Overall in episode 850 of the plugin show, that's spamming. It's like, seriously? Okay, just cut that out now. The forums are not for your brand. Well, I'm not using it for my brand. I'm using it to tell people who's doing this. It's not for marketing. It is not to generate traffic, revenue, or anything like that. The review is only for describing in words your experience with that plugin or theme. That's all, and nothing else. What you're describing is spam. Don't. That is not allowed, and if you do that, all of your accounts will be banned for good for spamming. I can unban your one account, but you can only use it to get support, help others, or, in the capacity I've described, leave reviews without referencing your site at all. If you are okay with that, let me know, and I'll proceed. If you've already created a new account, let me know too before I locate it myself. That would be bad if you do. Wow. Okay. Poked a hornet here, didn't I? All right. So I'm still drafting the response because this email came in late today and I haven't finished the response yet. But one of the things that got me on it, and this is kind of important, is that he's talking about the forum guidelines. I'm thinking, did I read them incorrectly? No, I'm certain I read them correctly. So I popped back into the forum guidelines to find that they had changed them since December 20th when I read them, and December 21st, well, this email came in late last night, so December 21st. So December 20th when I read the guidelines, and December 21st, they rewrote this paragraph. And thank God for the web archive Wayback Machine, so I have proof that they rewrote it. Okay? So when I read them on December 20th, it said this: if you are a plugin theme developer or a representative of a company involved with WordPress in some way, like a hosting provider, and I'm thinking, okay, involved in WordPress with some way. Well, I would say podcast, doing plugin reviews is involved in WordPress in some way. Plus, I'm also a web hosting provider, so hey, okay. It says having a separate personal or business account is acceptable. We don't consider that to be sock puppetry, which is what he's going on with. On December 21st, when I popped in there and looked at it, this is what it said. If you are a plugin or theme developer only having separate personal and business accounts, if you are a plugin and theme developer only, okay, big difference. Having separate and personal and business accounts is acceptable for uploading code to the WordPress repo for a very limited capacity of support of that plugin or theme. In that limited capacity, that may not be considered that to be sock puppetry. And as I made a mention of, it's like they must have wrote it in a hurry because they got a couple of grammatical things in there. Like if you read that last sentence, in that limited capacity, that may not be considered that to be sock puppetry. Wow, that's a hard read. So at any rate, my last response is going out to them probably tomorrow morning, but I've still been working on it because I try to get it as good as I can without being snarky, because it's really hard to do tone in emails. It's really hard. You have to do it carefully. But anyway, the Wayback Machine one that I've quoted here, and of course I'm going to quote that back in my final one because I don't like being accused of something that I misread when I didn't. That was taken on December 11th, so of this year. So it's close enough that, yeah, okay, they changed it. I really wish I had changed it there. So that's where I'm at. That's my little bit of WordPress drama, my direct WordPress drama. I have a fear that I'm actually going to lose my account at WordPress.org, which is not the end of the world for me. I didn't use it a whole lot. I tried to, use it to let the developers know the plugins I reviewed so that they could, find out a bit more about me, maybe support the show, or maybe they could, let others know. And so that when users saw it, that the review is not just a random review, but from someone who's been doing reviews for a while and gives some really good, honest reviews. Because I've read a lot of reviews on plugins only to realize that those reviews were, not really all that honest or useful. So I tried to do that. So at any rate, yeah, okay, so coming back to your comment there, Giftones, that not visit site sounds very much like what Classic Press is going through now. People say they can't mention it on a WordPress forum without risking being... Oh, absolutely. I would believe that entirely, and I'm willing to bet Jan Dembrowski is leading the charge. And by the time I'm done with this post, you'll find out even more about this fellow. He's really quite interesting. Actually, I didn't even bother looking him up until I got this last response, which was so very harsh. And it's like, holy smokes, what are you doing here, dude? So when I start looking him up, yeah, he's quite the charge there in the forums. And I believe it because they don't want the competition. They don't want to believe that people are going to go to Classic Press. And they're going to do everything they can to dissuade the populace from doing it. And they've already done enough to some of the major companies which are going to stay with WordPress. We're talking Studio Press, we're talking Yoast SEO. We're talking, trying to think of all them, get them in my head. But they're going to be making sure that it's not mentioned there because they don't want people to have the option. They've got to find the option in another way besides the WordPress forums because, and when you go read this, like I've got some articles that have been posted here by Jan, and he's trying to explain things so that it's clear for people. And you can see in his articles, it's like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're not allowed to do this, we don't want you to do anything here. I've seen articles about people that have tried to help people and given directions and other stuff only to have their information deleted in the forum threads when they're trying to help people. It's like, what are you doing? And this is something that I've heard peripherally for a long time, and I sort of only gave it half a thought because I was never involved directly in it. I was not active at the forums. But now that it's come to me, I guess it's time for me to stand up and do something. And I know I don't have a lot of support out there. I'm a little tiny podcast. You know, I only have a few thousand downloads a week. You know, so I don't have it. I've got a YouTube channel that has, you know, less than 300 subscribers at the moment. So it's not like I have a massive impact on the web. But who knows? Some of that can happen. So he contacted WordFence and Yoast directly at their website asking if they would support Classic Press in the future. Well, you did. Did they happen to mention whether they would or wouldn't? That would be a good idea. I'll have to add that into my thing. Let me write that down to make sure I do it. I don't write things down this time of night. Take care. All right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it develops. I mean, I kind of like the idea of what Guttenberg's trying to do, and it may be useful. It's definitely designing its way towards saving people time, and unfortunately what they're going to do is they're going to cut out a crap load of people who depend on development for their livelihood. Oh, so WordFence. Well, WordFence, I could see it. If you study WordFence, WordFence themselves have had their go-rounds with WordPress. I think it was a year or two ago, they got heavily involved in a row with WordPress. And it was quite entertaining to read. I tweeted a lot about it and posted a couple of articles about it myself. But WordFence, WPMU Dev, I'm trying to remember. What's it called? I can't remember. There's been a few others that are pretty big guys. They've had a row with, so they're not. They wouldn't at all be unwilling to move. Yoast has sunk his whole career connected with WordPress, and so has Studio Press and a couple of others. So their entire thing, although the guy who owns Studio Press has sold it, so he no longer has to worry. Just take his money, and when whatever contract he agreed to when he sold Studio Press is done, he can walk away. So let's hope something happens from him. But this is all I've really got for this week, and I will have another weekly talk like this next Saturday night. I'm going to try to do this every Saturday night about 8 o'clock in the evening. I don't expect you'll show up at 5 a.m. your time, Gift Owns, unless you happen to be up working on your WordPress site again. I'm really sorry that you're having to go through that. A lot of work. But for anyone else, I don't know who else joined us. We have a couple other listeners there. So thank you all for joining me for this. Spread the word. Tell people I exist. Let people know. If you stumble across and you're not subscribed to the channel, yep, down below. Right, there we go. I'm still figuring out this little mess here. Looking at 4 monitors here, and I got to remember which one's the live monitor. The monitor I'm always looking at is the delayed screen where the chats are at. I've monitored on my other one, so I got to turn away. So, at any rate, that's all I've really got. Have a Merry Christmas. I'll talk again just before the New Year's, and we'll ring in the New Year and see what happens. Hemdian, thank you very much, Hemdian. Merry Christmas to you, too. So, you all take care. That's all I've got now. I'm going to let my girl take us on out of here. We'll talk to you later.
Reminders for the show. All the show notes can be found at WPPluginsA2Z.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the Friday newsletter for more useful information delivered directly to your inbox. WP Plugins A to Z is a show that offers honest and unbiased reviews of plugins created by developers because you support the show. Help keep the show honest and unbiased by going to WPPluginsA2Z.com/donate and set the donation level that fits your budget. Help us make the show better for you by subscribing and reviewing the show at Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and in the iTunes Store. You can also watch the show live on YouTube, check out the screencasts and training videos, and remember to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications of all new videos. Also, follow the show on Twitter at WP Plugins A to Z. John can be reached at his website at johnoverall.com or send him an email, john@wppro.ca. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the show. This show is copyright by johnoverall.com. So until next time, have yourselves a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be out there on the globe today.